The information that is being presented today is my experience with vaccines and their side effects with myself and my family. I am not a medical doctor and I do not intend to diagnose nor give any medical advice. I encourage you to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. As a mother and clinical master herbalist, I set out on a journey to find the root cause of issues that became very present after certain vaccines were administered on my infant daughter at the time. I am not here to convince nor persuade anyone. This presentation contains research for the purpose of education. Along this journey, I have uncovered some very interesting information regarding vaccines and their ingredients. This is my experience, and I have a right to tell my story. In the short time the Lord allowed me to have you, it was during that time I found my voice. It all started out as what we thought was heat rash, since it was summer where it had been very hot. But then soon this heat rash transformed into a scaly, extremely dry skin rash that pretty much covered her legs and arms. After trying homemade natural remedies like cornstarch and Vaseline without success, I knew that this was not just a regular rash that we were dealing with, but something that I wasn't prepared for as a new young mother. The intense scratching from my daughter at only 3 months was unbearable to watch. I would have to keep socks or mittens on her hands constantly to keep her from scratching her skin raw and bloody. The days of sleepless nights of crying and scratching was something we as a family was not prepared for. It was time for her 4 month checkup and another round of shots. Before they proceeded to give her the shots, one nurse came into the room and told me that I had maxed out my insurance for her vaccinations, but that they had a batch that they normally use for Medicaid patients that would cost me less since I would be paying for them out of pocket. I politely declined and said that I would contact my insurance first to see what the issue was. They deemed her to be healthy and we were on our way out the door. After leaving the doctor's office, the only thing I could think about was when the nurse stated that they had vaccines they use for Medicaid patients. And I'm wondering, why is that separate from the other vaccines they give to their patients in general? What she said struck me as disturbing, but I didn't think that it would pertain to me since I would get everything straightened out with my insurance, or so I thought. She now 6 months, and I started to notice that she was getting more and more sensitive to certain foods and products. There was one particular incident while visiting a local park. A neighbor with their dog walked up to us to greet us, and the dog proceeds to lick her face. And immediately she broke out with these red welts all over her arms and legs. I knew then that this rash was now progressing into what appeared to be allergies. We see the doctor again for her 6 month checkup, and he noticed that her rash has gotten worse, and he prescribed me a liquid steroid for her to take. I usually don't read the side effects of medicine, but because this was my baby, and after losing a child, I became very cautious with everything I gave her. The side effects were so harsh, I called the doctor and explained to him all of the side effects of the medicine, and the only thing he told me was the benefits outweighed the risk. I was livid that that was the response he gave me, but I made in my mind that as her mother, I would not put her at risk regardless of the benefit. Long story short, I was discharged from two pediatricians because at this point, going through what we went through with the vaccines and now what we know was eczema, it was I was very selective at the services they offered. Anytime you undermine the authority of what I call a white coat, they don't like that and feel that normally they have a type of hold over their patients that whatever they say you will go along with, no questions asked. I couldn't sacrifice my baby's health to mullet just so that I didn't have to hear her crying at night from the intense itching and scratching. I knew that my faith in Jesus Christ was what I needed to activate and stand up and find a natural solution to this monstrous problem. I researched and researched, received a certification in herbology, now as a master herbalist, and became the sole practitioner for my children's health. After the birth of our third child, a son, I uncovered so much information about vaccines and that autism was highest among African American male children that the decision was clear, a definite no to vaccines for him and or anything the allopathic community had to offer. The search was on to find a cure for eczema and the cause of this dreadful skin disease that has afflicted so many people. On my journey, I uncovered so much disturbing information regarding vaccines, it made me wonder if we have been doomed all along. Ephesians 6 and 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Revelations 18 and 23. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Sorcery. The use of magic, especially black magic. Black magic. Magic involving the supposed invocation of evil spirits for evil purposes. Warfare. So, warfare is engagement in or the activities involved in war or conflict. So, there's 8 types of warfare, which first is conventional warfare, which uses traditional weapons and methods between states, typically avoiding nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons. Unconventional warfare involves irregular forces and tactics such as guerrilla warfare, insurgency, or terrorism. Asymmetric warfare, conflict between belligerents with drastically different levels of military capability. Cyber warfare involves attacking or damaging information systems of a nation state. Biological warfare, the use of biological agents like bacteria or viruses against targets. Chemical warfare, the use of weaponized chemicals in combat. Psychological warfare aims to influence the attitude, beliefs, and behavior of an enemy population, and electric warfare refers to practices used to support other areas of warfare by manipulating the electromagnetic spectrum. What is a vaccine? A vaccine is a biological preparation that provides acquired immunity to a particular infectious disease. Acquired immunity. Immunity that develops after exposure to a suitable agent, as by an attack of a disease or by injection of antigens. What is natural immunity? Natural immunity occurs when you become immune to a specific disease after contracting it. This triggers your immune system to make antibodies against the germ causing the infection inside of you. Antibodies are like special bodyguards that only recognize certain germs. The antibodies that dealt with the germ before can attack it before it spreads and make you ill. What is herd immunity? Did you know that when you get vaccinated, you are protecting yourself and your community? This concept is called community immunity or herd immunity, and it's an important reason for you and your family to get vaccinated so you can help keep yourselves and your community healthy. Germs can travel quickly through a community and make a lot of people sick. If enough people get sick, it can lead to an outbreak. But when enough people are vaccinated against a certain disease, the germs can't travel as easily from person to person, and the entire community is less likely to get the disease. There's less chance of an outbreak because it's harder for the disease to spread. Eventually, the disease becomes rare and sometimes it's wiped out altogether. And this is according to vaccines.gov. If vaccines create immunity, why are there multiple cases of outbreaks in vaccinated populations? This information was taken from learntherisk.com. Since vaccines are given by injection, they bypass the normal immune pathway and therefore do not trigger the cellular immune system, which science shows to be the main component necessary to create immunity. As a result, there are numerous reports of outbreaks in fully vaccinated populations with booster shots not making a difference. Since there is no benefit of immunity with vaccines, yet the very real risk of side effects and reactions, the question is who really benefits from an outdated vaccine program? Clearly, vaccines only benefit the pharmaceutical and medical industry, which uses vaccines to create health issues and customers for its prescription drug market and medical treatments. The global vaccine market is worth around $58 billion a year, with an almost doubling expected in the next decade. As usual, the industry puts profits before patients. So, this is also information taken from actually is learntherisk.org, and it talks about the outbreak of measles among persons with prior evidence of immunity. And this was from New York City, 2011. And this is also information you can get from studies from the from NIH.gov. So here it says 38% of measles cases that were tested in the 2015 U.S. outbreak were vaccine strains measles. So during the measles outbreak in California in 2015, a large number of suspected cases occurred in recent vaccines of the 194 measles virus sequences obtained in the United States in 2015. 73 were identified as vaccine sequences. A gene is the fundamental unit of heredity made of DNA that is passed from parents to offspring and contains the instructions for building and functioning proteins or regulating other genes. Genes are located at specific positions on chromosomes within cells, and while some genes provide instructions for making proteins, many others serve to control gene activity and expression, contributing to an organism's observable traits or phenotype. Genetic code refers to the instructions contained in a contained in a gene that tell a cell how to make a specific protein. Each gene's code uses the four nucleotide bases of DNA, which is adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine, in various ways to spell out three-letter codons that specify which amino acid is needed at each position within a protein. The universal genetic code is the nearly identical set of rules used by nearly all living organisms to translate the information in DNA and RNA into the sequence of amino acids that make up proteins. This code consists of three-letter sequences called codons, where each codon specifies a particular amino acid or a signal to start or stop protein synthesis. The code's universality suggests a common ancestor for all life and allows for genetic information to be transferred between species. So these are the 20 amino acids that are found on the genetic wheel. So you have alanine, arginine, asparagine, aspartic acid, cysteine, glutamic acid, glutamine, glycine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, proline, serine, threonine, tryptophan, tyrosine, and valine. What are proteins in the body? So, ribosomes produce all types of proteins within a cell by linking amino acids together in the sequence specified by the messenger RNA, essentially translating the genetic code into functional proteins with specific structures and functions depending on the mRNA sequence they read. This process is called protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is the process by which cells in the body create proteins which are essential for cell structure and function. Proteins are made up of amino acids, which are organic compounds that contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. The sequence of amino acids determines each protein's function. Proteins perform many important functions in cells, such as transport, structural support, chemical reactions, cell communication, and protection from harmful bacteria and viruses. So, what is the protein synthesis process? So, as you see here, you have DNA, RNA, and protein. So, the body makes proteins through a process called protein synthesis, which uses DNA as an instruction manual to create proteins from building blocks called amino acids. This process is constant in our cells, but we also need dietary amino acids from protein rich foods to provide the necessary building blocks for new proteins that maintain health. Proteins are essential for many functions, including forming antibodies, transporting nutrients, building and repairing tissues like muscle, and creating vital enzymes. Here's the breakdown. So, genetic instruction, your DNA in the cell's nucleus contains the blueprint for all proteins. Transcription is a molecule of messenger RNA copies the instructions for a specific protein from the DNA. Ribosomes. The mRNA then moves to a ribosome, which is like a tiny factory worker. Translation. The ribosome reads the mRNA's instructions, which are coded in three-letter combinations called codons. Each codon specifies a particular amino acid. And amino acid assembly. Transfer RNA molecules bring the correct amino acids to the ribosome, which links them together in the order specified by the mRNA. So here are our protein benefits breakdown. So protein is an essential part of a healthy diet that has many functions in the body. And this is just talking about just dietary protein. So building and repairing. So protein is a building block for bones, muscle, skin, hair, and nails. It's also used to repair and build tissue. Making enzymes and hormones. Protein is used to make enzymes that help digest food and create new cells and chemicals. It also plays a role in hormone regulation, especially during puberty. Carrying oxygen. Red blood cells contain a protein compound that carries oxygen throughout the body, lowering blood pressure. A protein rich diet can help lower both systolic and diastolic blood pressure, reducing cravings. Eating more protein can help reduce cravings and late night snacking, counteracting muscle loss. Older adults can benefit from more protein to help counteract muscle loss, which is a natural part of aging. The specific proteins in red meat are not the same as the proteins in your body, but both are made from the same pool of the 20 amino acids encoded by the universal genetic code. The genetic code wheel itself is a tool that shows how DNA and RNA is translated into these 20 amino acids, not the proteins themselves. While the building blocks are the same, The differences between the proteins in red meat and your body are determined by their specific structure and sequence. A protein's primary structure is the unique sequence of amino acids in its chain. The genetic instructions for building proteins are different for a human than they are for a cow or another animal because the underlying DNA sequences differ. The resulting amino acid sequences of their proteins will also differ. Meat contains proteins specific to the animal's muscle tissue, such as actin, myosin, and myoglobin. When you eat red meat, you are consuming the muscle tissue of an animal, which is made up of proteins that were performing biological functions for that animal. Red meat is considered a complete protein because it contains all nine essential amino acids that humans cannot produce on their own and must get from their diet. When you eat red meat, your body does not absorb the animal's proteins directly. Instead, your digestive system breaks them down into individual amino acids. In your stomach and intestines, enzymes break the bonds that hold the amino acid chains together. The individual amino acids are then absorbed and transported throughout your body. Your cells use these amino acids to assemble new proteins following the instructions copied or coded in your own DNA. This is the process known as protein synthesis or translation, where the genetic code wheel is used to correctly sequence the amino acids. First Timothy 4 1 through 6. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meats, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. For every creature of God is good, and nothing to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving. For it is sanctified by the word of God and prayer. If thou put the brethren in remembrance of these things, thou shalt be a good minister of Jesus Christ, nourished up in the words of faith and of good doctrine, whereunto thou hast attained. Would it be possible to modify the genetic code to create a plague? Endemic creations think so. Plague Incorporated. Can you infect the world? Plague Incorporated is a unique mix of high strategy and terrifyingly realistic simulation with over 700 million games played. Your pathogen has just infected patient zero. Now you must bring about the end of human history by evolving a deadly global plague whilst adapting against everything humanity can do to defend itself. Brilliantly executed with innovative gameplay and built from the ground up for the iPhone, iPad, Android, and Windows Phone. Plague Incorporated evolves the strategy genre and pushes mobile gaming and you to the next levels. It's you versus the world. Only the strongest can survive. About Endemic Creations. Endemic Creations is a leading independent game studio dedicated to making intelligent, sophisticated, and high quality strategy games based in Bristol, UK. Endemic achieved extreme success with its first game, Plague Incorporated, a global hit with over 180 million players, which is one of the top five most successful paid mobile games ever. Endemic's latest game is Rebel Incorporated, a political military simulation inspired by events in Afghanistan. And this is just a breakdown of the game called Plague Incorporated. So you can pick the type of plague that you want. You can determine how it's going to be transmitted, what the symptoms are. and you can also modify the genetic code. Research for protein subunit technology. So, protein subunit vaccines have been used for years. More than 30 years ago, a hepatitis B vaccine became the first protein subunit vaccine to be approved for use in people in the United States. Another example of protein subunit vaccines used today include whooping cough vaccines. Protein subunit vaccines contain pieces or proteins of the virus that causes COVID 19. These virus pieces are the spike protein. The vaccine also contains another ingredient called an adjuvant that helps the immune system respond to that spike protein in the future. Once the immune system knows how to respond to the spike protein, the immune system will be able to respond quickly to the actual virus spike protein and protect you against COVID 19. How protein subunit COVID 19 vaccines work. Protein subunit COVID 19 vaccines are given in the upper arm muscle. After vaccination, nearby cells pick up these proteins. Next, our immune system recognizes that these proteins do not belong there. Another ingredient in the vaccine, the adjuvant, helps our immune system to produce antibodies and activate other immune cells to fight off what it thinks is an infection. This is what your body might do if you got sick with COVID 19. At the end of the process, our bodies have learned how to help protect against future infection with the virus that causes COVID 19. The benefit is that people get this protection from a vaccine without ever having to risk the potentially serious consequences of getting sick with COVID 19. Many side effects from getting the vaccine are normal signs the body is building protection. This is information that was taken from cdc.gov. Deoxyribonucleic acid, or what is known as DNA, is a long molecule that contains our unique genetic code. It holds the instructions for making all the proteins in our body. DNA contains four basic building blocks: adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. The order or sequence of these bases form the instructions in the genome. DNA is a two-stranded molecule. DNA has a unique double helix shape like a twisted ladder. DNA does more than specify the structure and function of living things and is primarily in human genetic material. Humans also have RNA, which is another nucleic acid crucial for protein synthesis, but the primary genetic code is carried by the DNA. We will discuss later in the presentation since this has everything to do with vaccinations. It also serves as the primary unit of heredity in organisms of all types. In other words, whenever organisms reproduce, a portion of their DNA is passed along to their offspring. This transmission of all or part of an organism's DNA helps ensure a certain level of continuity from one generation to the next, while still allowing for slight changes that contribute to the diversity of life. So, RNA, which is ribonucleic acid, this information was taken from umedmass.edu. RNA, in one form or another, touches nearly everything in a cell. RNA carries out a broad range of functions from translating genetic information into the molecular machines and structures of the cell to regulating the activity of genes during development, cellular differentiation, and changing environments. RNA is a unique polymer like DNA. It can bind with great specificity to either DNA or another RNA through complementary base pairing. It can also bind specific proteins or small molecules, and remarkably, RNA can catalyze chemical reactions, including joining amino acids to make proteins. Moderna, pioneering mRNA technology. So, this information was taken from modernatx.com. The M in mRNA stands for messenger. So, what is mRNA? Messenger RNA already exists in your body. It carries a message, instructions that direct your cells on what to do. mRNA medicines fight disease in a different way than traditional medicine by prompting your immune system to create the tools to treat or prevent disease. Our platform enables rapid design, research, and testing of multiple mRNAs within days. Our novel production methods allow us to get medicines to more people faster. What if the wrong messages were being programmed into your RNA and being sent to your immune system? Mode is the root word of modified, as both words derive from the Latin word modus, meaning measure or manner. The word modify comes from the Latin modificare, which combines modus with facere, which means to make, meaning to measure off or to make a measure. The word mode itself also comes directly from modus, referring to a manner or way of fashion. Modus is a Latin word meaning method, manner, or way. It is a common root word for various phrases such as modus operandi, a specific method of operation often used to describe a criminal's distinctive pattern of behavior, and modus vivendi, a way of living or existing. Leverage. Leverage is the ability to influence situations or people so that you can control what happens. So, messenger RNA is called messenger because it acts like a carrier transporting genetic information from the DNA into the nucleus of a cell to the ribosomes in the cytoplasm, where that information is used to build proteins, essentially delivering a message to the protein making machinery within the cell. Your immune system carries antibodies to fight an infection off more quickly the next time it sees the same proteins, just like the mRNA your body produces for its own instructions. mRNA is a set of instructions that our cells use to make proteins. mRNA based therapies leverage this natural protein making ability when these instructions are encoding a specific protein, such as the spike on the SARS-CoV-2 virus, they can turn our cells into protein making factories. And this information was taken from Pfizer.com. This is more on mRNA vaccines. So, to trigger an immune response, many vaccines put a weakened or inactivated germ into our bodies, not mRNA vaccines. Instead, mRNA vaccines use mRNA created in a laboratory to teach our cells how to make a protein, or even just a piece of a protein, that triggers an immune response inside our bodies. This immune response, which produces antibodies, is what helps protect us from getting sick from that germ in the future. So, the first mRNA COVID 19 vaccines are given in the upper arm muscle or upper thigh, depending on the age of who is getting the vaccine. After vaccination, the mRNA will enter the muscle cells. Once inside, they use the cell's machinery to produce a harmless piece of what is called the spike protein. The spike protein is found on the surface of the virus that causes COVID 19. After the protein piece is made, our cells break down the mRNA and remove it, leaving the body as waste. Next, our cells display the spike protein piece on their surface. Our immune system recognizes that the protein does not belong there. This triggers our immune system to produce antibodies and activate other immune cells to fight off what it thinks is an infection. This is what your body might do if you get sick with COVID-19. At the end of the process, our bodies have learned how to protect against future infection with the virus that causes COVID 19. The benefit is that people get this protection from a vaccine without ever having to risk the potentially serious consequences of getting sick with COVID 19. Any side effects from getting the vaccine are normal signs the body is protecting itself. And this information was taken from Pfizer, um, from Pfizer and Moderna. So this is the spike facts. So this information was taken from cdc.gov, and you can actually go on there to just find different ingredients that are in different vaccines, and you can just kind of look up all the different ingredients that they have listed if they're listing everything. But this is just one of the COVID-19 vaccines that they were administering to help the spread of COVID-19. What is spike protein? So, the spike protein is located on the outside of coronavirus and is how SARS-CoV-2 enters the human cells. Its location on the outside of the virus makes it so the immune system can recognize it easily. The spike protein is unique to SARS-CoV-2. It doesn't look like other proteins your body makes. Contact with the spike protein appears to damage endothelial cells, which line every blood vessel in our body, including hundreds of billions in our lungs. It's called the spike protein because its structure on the surface of coronavirus particles resembles spikes, giving the virus its characteristic or crown like appearance under a microscope. The spike proteins are essential for the virus to infect cells by binding to and entering host cells, making them a key target for vaccines and treatments. So this is Nas, the rapper Nas. This is his Grammy award winning album called King's Disease that actually won him the Grammy for Best Rap Album at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards in 2021. And this album was actually released on August 21st, 2020, during the coronavirus outbreak. So this information was taken from Pfizer.com because this is what we have to look forward to in the future. So it says unlocking the potential of mRNA for flu. So development and delivery of the world's first mRNA-based vaccine for COVID-19 highlighted mRNA as a potent vaccine platform, and we believe this technology has the potential to help prevent or treat other diseases, including the flu. Since 2018, we have been working to develop a potential mRNA influenza vaccine driven by our deep understanding of infectious diseases and our extensive experience in researching, developing, and implementing new vaccine technologies to help prevent infectious diseases, said Catherine Yu Jansen, PhD, Senior Vice President and Head of Vaccine Research and Development at Pfizer. The COVID-19 pandemic allowed us to demonstrate the immense scientific opportunity that mRNA might have for a variety of diseases. Influenza remains an area where we think a vaccine with improved efficacy in any given season could make a real difference in people's lives. And we believe mRNA is the ideal technology to take on this challenge. So, this was taken from the mission statement from Moderna's website. So, their mission, he said, our mission is to deliver the greatest possible impact to people through mRNA medicines. And we set out to change the world and make mRNA medicines a reality for humanity. Ingestion versus injection. What's the difference? Ingestion substances flow through the body's biological detox pathway, which includes the mucosal cells, stomach, intestines, kidneys, and liver. The gastrointestinal or GI tract, which digests it to extract and absorb energy and nutrients, expelling the remaining waste as feces. Injection skips the body's entire detox pathway, including the GI tract, and slowly leaks into the bloodstream from the muscle tissue. From there, these toxins have access to major organs, your heart, brain, central nervous system, kidneys, and lungs, as well as other important body tissues such as the thyroid, intestines, etc., through the lymphatic pathway. Numerous scientific studies have reported the serious health issues that can result from injected toxins. Biologically, they're very different, and so are the risks. So, injected aluminum equals around 95% absorbed into body's tissues, but ingested aluminum equals around 95% excreted through the body's detox pathway. We all can handle different levels of synthetic chemicals determined by our genetics before inflammation takes hold and cause a health issue, most often chronic. You never know when you will be pushed past the tipping point of what your body can handle and you develop a neurological or autoimmune issue, cancer, heart disease, or even death. This information was taken from learntherisk.org. First Peter 5 and 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour.